What's the worst, thing that maybe you've had to deal with as a mom?
The decisions and the not always knowing, we did it the right way, because
Yeah.
every family is different and looks different. Following the example of Jesus was just that, God told us to love God and love others. This is what we're supposed to do.
Yeah.
And so
I think we want to make it about ourselves, and we think about ourselves and our desires.
Yeah.
So it's I want this. I'm Aaron. I'm here with Briana, Frei, and she's going to share a little bit as we talk about this past weekend's message. We kicked off a new series called Book Club, and we're talking about the book Mind Shift by Erwin McManus. I've read it. I don't think you've read it
I
yet,
haven't
but
read it,
hopefully
no.
maybe you got some intrigue for it. But the concept of mind shift and having our minds just being able to shift towards the positive, so to speak. We're going to talk a little bit about that and how we can find some of that in scripture and all of that. So would you share a little about who you are and just
Sure.
give everyone some of your background?
Sure. My name is Briana, and I used to live in Wisconsin. Then we moved to Pennsylvania for 12 years, and now we're back. So
All
we
right.
moved July. Sorry. We moved last July, and so we're coming up on our 1-year anniversary this summer. And it's been really fun to be back in Wisconsin and near family and going to church. My sister goes to church, and that's really wonderful, and her family.
Yeah, because you guys didn't have a ton of family in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, we didn't have any family. We had
got a lot.
church friends that felt like family, but we didn't have family. So it's been really good to reconnect and to do that. But I'm married to Ben. I like to say he is the real deal. What you see is what you get.
I like him. He's
He's
real
awesome.
deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just as awesome as he seems. And Henry just turned 9.
Okay.
He watched Star Wars for the first time for his
Nice,
9th birthday.
yeah.
So we're up to our eyeballs in Star Wars facts right now. And Amelia turns 7 next Wednesday.
Awesome.
So 9 and 7.
Awesome. Yeah, my daughter turns 4 tomorrow, and we just made a unicorn.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
A
I've seen the
unicorn cake.
pictures.
So, are you guys making a fancy cake of some sort? Or?
Well, for Henry, we made a humongous R2D2 cake.
Oh, nice.
It had to be marble because he wanted the light side and the dark side represented.
Right.
I mean,
yes.
He's a creative kid. Emmy keeps saying to me, "Mom, do you believe in yourself that you can make the cake that we saw on Pinterest?" And I'm like, sorta. Yes, maybe. So I'm attempting to make that with her this
All right. Well,
this
good luck.
week. So thank you. It
luck.
will be a roller skate with licorice ties
Awesome.
and Oreo wheels. So we'll see how
Sweet.
it goes.
Yes, I'm excited to see it, actually.
Thank you.
All right, so talking about books, that's kind of the series. It's looking at 4 different books throughout this whole month. What's your relationship with books? Do you love them? Do you hate them? I think you're a reader. We've talked about books before, but
Yes.
were you like that in college as well?
Sure. I definitely grew up in a home that loved books. I can vividly remember books that my mom would always read to me, and even my dad. He had 2 books. Perhaps I'll Be a Farmer. That one didn't work. He was trying to, it didn't work for me. And Good Fish Dinner. So
Okay.
I just do associate a lot of warm memories around books. And growing up, I read the same book many times for comfort. So books have always been kind of comfortable. And I studied English in college. So yes, my relationship with books in college was that I was reading them a lot and writing a lot of analysis papers on them.
Yeah.
So I do really enjoy. These days, the best way to get content is through my earbuds, through my noise canceling earbuds.
I do talk to your husband about the books he's reading.
Yes.
Or listening.
He reads more avidly than I do, but I do have a few books I'm always kind of jumping between, and I have a few favorites that I listen to just on repeat.
Yeah.
So
even in college, you loved books. It's just,
yes.
Yeah. That's awesome. Do you have one right now that you're excited about or that you're reading?
I'm reading the book Gentle and Lowly right now
Okay.
about Jesus and how he describes himself, and that's been really wonderful.
Cool.
And I'm pretty much always listening to Harry Potter. So
My wife, I think, has read through them like 12 times.
I know we talked about it.
That's her comfort book. Yeah.
It is.
I'm reading, I think it's like Intentional Fatherhood right now. That one's been interesting, challenging me. And it's about raising young boys, actually, or like, so kids that are, and I just have a son now.
Yes.
So it's like, how do you raise a son to be a man? And so I'm excited I'm a little excited about that one, but I've been doing a lot of reading for this series too.
Yes,
so that's
I'm
been
sure.
a lot.
Do you read, like, sit down with a physical book and?
I have a Kindle.
Oh, okay.
So I'm a Kindle person.
Okay.
Yeah.
Kindle is nice, but you want to know my favorite thing about Kindle?
What?
You can highlight the word and it tells you what it means.
Yeah, well, then you can highlight and then put them all together in one spot. So all my highlights, one spot.
Ugh, I love
it's amazing.
It is.
All right, we're going to get to some content soon. But with that, I wanted to first just ask you, like, thing that maybe you've had to deal with as a mom. Because we talked about Mother's Day. Let's just visit that for a second.
Yeah.
Like,
loaded question, but I was kind of thinking about one of the worst, just one of the worst things that happened in my family. And my kids are aware of this about me. Like, my memory isn't great.
Yeah.
And my attention to detail isn't always spot on.
Sure.
Like I said with Emmy. So sometimes she'll say, Mom, do you believe in yourself that you can remember that I'm supposed to wear my shirt to school tomorrow that says Pyre on it or whatever, which I forgot to do today. And she'll be like, I'll just write it down. Put it on the refrigerator for me. So along that same vein, last year when Henry turned 8 and we still lived in Pennsylvania, we said that we were going to go to see Dude Perfect, which is one of his favorite groups. They're on YouTube, really great. And so we spent the money, we got the tickets, all 4 of us were supposed to go to Baltimore the Monday before we moved. We're moving on Friday, we're going on Monday, okay? So Monday comes, Henry is psyched, you know, he's wearing his DP shirt, and Ben came out of the room and he said, Briana, come outside right now. And I was like, okay. So I came out and he's like, it was yesterday, we missed it. The thing was yesterday.
Ugh.
And I'm just like, all the whatever of packing and trying to get it ready, and like Henry is like about to jump out of his seat with excitement to go see Dude Perfect, and I just started sobbing like, how did this happen? But when we ordered the tickets and it said the 25th, I made a ticket for Henry that had like them on there, happy birthday Henry, and it said the 26th on it. So the whole time it was just like, this is happening on the 26th. So we came up with a solution that didn't involve us parking all of our belongings in Indiana as we moved across the country. And we landed here on the 1st and we drove to St. Paul, Minnesota on the 2nd. Saw Dude Perfect.
So you saw
drove back. So, you know, what's the best thing to do after a 20-hour trip to Wisconsin? A 9-hour round trip to St. Paul, Michigan. Yeah. Minnesota. Which one? St. Paul.
St. Paul, Minneapolis, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that was one of my not so shiny moments as a.
Well, you solved it and you made it right.
We did the thing. We donated, you know, to Dude Perfect because we gave them money.
Multiple tickets worth, yes.
And did not come.
Nice.
Yeah, it's all right.
Nice. So that's like kind of like a funny example. Like, what are like some everyday things that like you just kind of like have to deal with or handle as a mom? Like, it's tough. I mean, I see it in my wife. I see it. I know it from my mom. Like that she had to deal with me.
It is a lot. It's a lot. As I'm kind of thinking about this, I think one of the hard things to deal with is just all the questions and decisions. There's so many things that you're trying to help your kids with, and you're like, is this even the right choice? There's so many different directions to go. What do you sign them up for? What do you invest in? What do you say no to? School choices, all of those things. I think it's just the constant need to make a decision about dinner, about discipline. Like, did I handle that correctly? How should I talk to them about these things? So the decisions and the not always knowing, like, we did it the right way, you know, because every family is different and looks different. So decisions, another thing that I think is just a hard thing to deal with as a mom every day is just the sheer noise.
Yeah.
Like everything is
Yeah.
so loud all the time. I feel like I can't think often. So I'm glad the weather's getting warmer and we can get
Yeah,
outside.
my wife would agree with that,
Yeah.
that second one. The first one's really interesting to me because I actually was listening to a book on this one, but they were talking about like as a pastor, because I listen to a lot of stuff about that, but like as a
Yeah.
pastor, there's no turning off leading. You're always leading.
Yeah.
But like pastoring is very similar to like parenting. And so it's
Yeah.
like parenting's the same way. You're always leading. You always have to make decisions. You can't just like stop
Yeah.
and just
Yeah.
pause. It's
Yeah.
like you're, even when you don't feel like leading, even when you're tired, even when like you probably shouldn't be, you still are.
Yeah.
And you still are making
Yeah.
decisions. And
It's
so like
constant.
that's like
You can't pause.
so it's yeah, it's real.
The decisions.
But parenting
That's hard.
parenting is way harder than I thought. Like it's just like you're always have to be on.
Yeah, as cliche as it is, you're always a great parent until you have kids. You can have opinions about other people parenting, but
exactly.
yeah.
Okay, so this past Sunday we talked about like the concept of renewing our minds, like kind of as Romans 12:2 states, like do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you'll be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will. Like, have you experienced transformation from renewing of your mind before? Like, in what areas of life, if so, or like how? Like, what
Sure.
comes to mind for that?
As I was thinking about this, I think that one of the bigger mind shifts in my life has been just how I view people, kind of going from a more critical or judgmental outlook to understanding that everyone is going through something.
Yeah.
And your strength might be their weakness, but their strength is your weakness. And so we always judge people kind of from the protection and shelter of our own life, our own perspective. And I think that God has really helped me to see that I don't have the wisdom to compare my life to someone else. And everyone needs compassion. Everyone's going through something. And I think that I'm so thankful that I know that I used to be more critical and judgmental, but God has just helped me to see that everyone is going through something, and everyone needs compassion, and everyone has strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah.
And I think that sometimes we're tempted to like love people for their strengths while at the same time like detesting them for their weaknesses. And it's like people come in whole packages.
Yeah.
You know, so like you choose to love and you accept all of that.
Yeah.
You know, because people have to choose to love me, all of that, you know. So just kind of seeing it more holistically.
So renewing your mind of like, this person, maybe they have a weakness that I see as a weakness, but they probably have strengths that like could be super beneficial.
Yes. We're
I
all
love that.
unique, and God has a plan for each of us, and it's not really my job to figure out if that person is following God's plan for their life. I just need to follow his plan for my life and be gracious as people, and God himself has been gracious with me.
Yeah, I love the whole mind shift concept of like, and it's just these subtle little changes. Like it's just a thought difference, right? It's like instead of wow, they're really bad at this, and this, it's like I don't know their story.
Yeah.
They're probably extremely gifted in this area and like dealing with something, you know, but like just like those subtle changes, like even like the comment I said about like leading and being exhausted by it. If the subtle mind changes, like I get to lead, not like I have to lead. I get this opportunity. It's like all of those like are just that renewing of your mind, and it really can transform your perspective. And then I think like it allows you to start seeing God's will better.
Yeah.
It allows you to like see what God is doing in the world instead of just you.
Yeah. Definitely. It is cool how as a pastor you shepherd, and as a dad you shepherd, and that can look a little differently, but I think that's a really cool place to be in. It's hard, like there's a lot of responsibility, but it's kind of cool.
Yeah.
I have one more thought.
Yeah, go.
On mind shift, sorry. Something that I've started doing is trying to isolate the thing that I'm kind of like the lie that I'm telling myself. So when I started teaching full time last year, I just felt like I don't know how to do this. I can't do this. I'm not doing a good enough job. Yeah. And I just started, when I started thinking that, I remembered the song that says, failure is never final when the Father's in the room. Yeah. So I just would stand in my classroom and say, failure is never final. Like, God is here. I'm not a failure. I'm not going to believe that lie. So just like picking, kind of isolating what lie you're kind of likely to believe, and picking a mantra, a verse, a song that you can just like, nope, that's not true. It's not true. So
yeah, no, I really like that. There's a quote I shared also in the message this past Sunday, and the quote was like, for most of us, the tension is not between good choices and bad choices. The real battle is between the easy good and the hard best. Oh, right? I feel that one. I feel that one. Do you experience this? Like, how do you handle those situations?
Yeah, well, truly, I'm not great with decisions. I'm not great with feeling super confident in my decisions. So I'm thankful for the promise that God gives us, that He will give us wisdom when we ask for it. But I think sometimes the hard best is saying no to things. Like when we moved here, we made a conscious decision to just prioritize our family, prioritize our marriage's health, and prioritize like slowing down together. And the best yes in that was actually like a no, saying no to a lot of people. So you're disappointing people, or you have to say no to, I have to say no to my own obsession with accomplishment or recognition, or feeling successful as a teacher. Like there were things about that I loved and miss every day. And so for me, like I would say that our life was really good. And this now, the best yes for us has been, we're going to say yes to slowing down. We're going to say yes to prioritizing time together. We're going to say yes to healing and wholeness. And that has been really good and also very hard. Like, who doesn't love to be accomplishing? Who doesn't love to be doing? So I think sometimes the best yes is a no, and that's tricky. I don't know.
No, you're hitting on something that like I feel like I preach about it too often, but like it's just like the things you say yes to, you're in response to that, you're saying no to other things. And so it's like you really have to like, what are your priorities? Like, and I'm not like good at this like all the time. Like, so it's like something I preach because I need to keep hearing it, but it's like what I say yes to, when I say yes to that, I'm saying no to this. And so like, is that a priority or not? And like on the list of priorities. So it's, I think like what really to navigate like the hard best and the easy good, it's knowing your priorities, like what is essential.
Absolutely. Yeah, because I think it's easy to ignore stuff at home because it's more private, or it's just like exhausting to think about sometimes, or confusing, but it's important. So that's kind of what I was thinking along that line.
I love it. Let's shift gears a little bit here.
All right, let's do it.
I gave the example of being sick. We had the the stomach bug or something in our household. Who's the worst sick person in your household?
Guess.
I'm not.
Guess.
I'm voting for silence on this one.
Plead the fifth. It's me. Ben can like bend sickness to his will. He just decides he's not sick and he continues with his life.
I could see like Ben actually like sweating, throwing up, but still getting work done.
For sure, that's happened. I mean, for sure that's happened. Yeah. He's not a bad sickie. My kids aren't great, but they're happy if they're watching TV, so it's pretty easy to navigate.
But you're the soup person, so you must be like, all right, I'm not making soup today, but someone else is
Someone
making.
needs to make me soup or get to the store. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's me for sure. I'm
Okay.
the problem. It's me.
Okay. Well, that just was a story kind of about the mind shifts we can have when we're sick, and it's like it's easy to be in the sickness, and it's man, if you can shift it just a little bit, you can sometimes get yourself out of
Yeah.
that funk.
It's hard to
like,
decide that you're
yeah.
okay enough to do something.
Yes. All right, let's shift gears again. Now, so looking at the story, this past Sunday we talked about like Gideon. That was in Judges 7. God kind of slashes like an army of thousands to 300. Um, have you ever felt like God's like reduced your army per se, like whether it's like your network of people or your gifting or your funds or whatever it maybe is, but like have you ever had a like felt like you were totally equipped, God slashes it, and then you kind of have to have a mind shift about what you have, right? Like,
Definitely.
thousands instead of, 300 instead of thousands
Yeah.
is a big difference.
Yeah.
Can you think of an example like you maybe had to deal with something like that?
Yeah. I just had read that story when
Yeah.
you did it on Sunday, and so I was like, oh, cool. I just thought about this too, which was so fun. But I love how this point of that story that God explicitly states is, I want the victory to be so clearly me. I want you to feel like this is so impossible, and the only way that this could have happened is God.
Yeah.
And I think that there's a lot of times that that's happened in my life, but one thing that I thought about was when we first moved to Pennsylvania, we were kind of all of our friends and connections were kind of stripped away at that point at the beginning of our time in Pennsylvania. And so I found myself feeling very like just very needy and very selfish about like, why aren't people saying hi to me? Like that kind of stuff. Just being like, I want to feel connected. I want to have friends.
Yeah.
I want to stuff like that. So I just was feeling very disconnected at church because I'm like, I just want this to feel a little different than it is. And then the next Sunday I went into church and I was like, I should say hi to that person. So I was like, hey, how are you? Have you, how long have you been coming to church here? And I was thinking she was going to be like 20 years like everyone else. And she's like, oh, it's my first Sunday. And I was like,
You're my girl.
Okay. Like I was able to be the welcome for her.
Yeah.
Like I felt like she needed that, and I'm so glad that I was just like God has kind of taken away the resources of like comfort and connectedness and friends.
But you were able to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if that exactly answers the question.
I think that's a great example.
But it was powerful because I
Yeah.
was like, hey, I could like welcome people. I like to do that.
Yeah.
Pennsylvania's more private. That church was
Midwest
especially.
nice, yeah.
And I was like, you know what? I like saying hi to people. I could just like do that. And so
Yeah.
instead of being like, why don't people say hi to me? I could just say hi to other people.
That's really cool.
Anyway, yeah.
No, I think that's really cool. You said something about like reading that story, or just reading it, and how it's like it's God's victory, like is what he wanted to show, and like that kind of goes into this next question of like, how do you make sure that you keep God in your vision, in your dreams, in your future? I mean, like, so easy for it to be about like what we want.
Yes. What do you want to be when you grow up?
But it's like, how do you make sure that you keep bringing yourself back to like it's about God? God, it's God's victory.
Yep.
I think like we want to make it about ourselves, and like we think about ourselves in our desires.
Yeah.
So it's like I want this.
Yeah.
And it's so like I'm speaking from my example. Like it's so easy for me to like I'm a dreamer, so I'll dream up something, and then literally I'm already 10 steps deep into it.
Yeah.
Like before we even hit the ground running, but
Yeah.
I'm already 10 steps ahead.
Yeah.
And like for me, like that is a red flag.
Yeah.
Because it's one of those like, have I even like look to God on
Yeah.
this? Like, because I'll just be like, we're gonna do this and let's buy this, and I already bought that thing, so when we have that thing, it's ready, and then we're ready to go. And so it's like, wait, is this what God wants? Is this part of our vision for him? And so like that I have to like, I think you said being aware of that is important. And I think pausing, not going too fast.
I don't think there's any way around just like a rhythm of spending time with God and praying, and just like having an open hand to him while you're talking about things. Like if there's something that you're clenching your fists about as you talk to God, like examine that thing. Try to keep an open hand with him and ask him to be obvious. Like I've done that so often. If there's a conversation I need to have with someone, but I'm like, do I want to have that conversation because I want to say something to them, or is this really what God wants? And I'll just say, God, be obvious. If I'm supposed to have that conversation, you open the door and I'll walk through, but I'm not going to push forward. So praying for God to be obvious.
That's awesome. How do you, like we talked about one of the other mind shifts, so having it be about God, having God first. The another one would be like having it be about others. So like shifting your mind so that it's for others. Like, is that something that matters to you? Like, that you've seen work even in your own life of like, when I shift my mind, have it be for others instead of for me or for even just my family. Have you seen that work or not in helping you achieve something?
Yeah, I think that anything of eternal value involves our relationship with others. A life that's spent on self is not satisfying in the end. I think we can look to a lot of stories of that, in books and in real life. I think that following the example of Jesus was just that, God told us to love God and love others. This is what we're supposed to do. And so I think that making my focus on others, if that's my family or the people around me, is so important, and it's Christ-like. It doesn't come naturally, but it's definitely awesome. Like it's awesome to be able to encourage someone or to be able to come alongside someone.
But it takes work. Like it's not this. At least for me, like it's maybe more for you, but like there has to be an intentional, like kind of like I want to lift someone up. I want to, like, because it's really easy for me to swing the opposite side of like, it's just about me, my goals, my vision, my plan, my family. And then like when you can bounce back, like, I've seen the pros of that. Like, wow, I can lift that person up. I can encourage them and support them. And, and it's like, when I start getting in that path, it's easier. But like, it's so easy to sometimes go on your own too.
Yeah, I think that it's, sorry, I lost my train of thought.
No, I get it. I get lost as well.
Just 1 second.
No, we can just cut that part from there.
Okay, go ahead.
It's real. But.
I don't know.
All right. Let's talk about this one. As a mom who is raising a son, what did you think about some of those stats I said about young men? Like, so I don't have them offhand, but like 3.5 times more likely to be addicted, way more likely to commit suicide, deal with depression.
You said
incarcerated, live at home as an adult. Less likely to attend college, like.
I think that it is, it's so hard for, like, growing up is hard. Like it's hard to like shift from a self-focus to an other focused mindset. And for Henry, we have been trying to just help him notice when he's being selfish and help him notice how he can use his strength to help others. This weekend he learned, I'm shocked, it's amazing, he learned how to use the like 0-turn lawnmower.
You tell me
I tried to drive it, couldn't do it. I was like, Mario Kart's paying off. So I think just trying to help him to see that like your strength and your ability can be used to help others, and as we inspire him to do that, hopefully he will avoid some of those statistics
Yeah.
as he sees purpose and how his unique gifting from God is leading him somewhere. Just try to inspire him and help him to feel confident in who God has made him to be so that he can go out and pursue something, to be working towards something.
Yeah. I love that. The success, like in certain things, helping them find the things that maybe they could be successful with. I also think like a big part is like helping them realize even if, let's say, you fail, you can learn through that failure and then keep on going.
Yes.
Keep trying in different avenues, like, because it's so easy, like if you are dealing with relationships, things go south, or work goes south, or schooling doesn't go, you didn't score on the test like you thought. But it's like all of those aren't like this, you are a failure. It's maybe you just dealt with a failure. And so it's like change, adapt, mind shift. The mind shift is I'm learning from my failures, and so I hope that for a lot of men, like that it's like, man, this one's not for me, but I'm learning what is for me, or I at least have a better idea what's for me now, so.
Encouraging them in who God has made them to be and helping them to not compare themselves as much. It's like God has special things about who you are.
Absolutely.
So chase that. And I mean, preaching to the choir too,
Yeah, exactly. All right, last question. The last thing I mentioned on Sunday was like who you are is what you find, meaning like who you are around, it tends to be what you're becoming and who you are as a person as well. Like, so the type of people. Do you agree or disagree with that? And like, I'm curious what your thoughts are on this, but like as a Christian, it's like how do we not just say, oh, I'm just going to hang with my Christian friends now. Like, how do you raise others up still, that, or like still be around others who maybe aren't at the same spot spiritually?
I think that it's certainly true that the people that surround you are going to impact your life, negatively or positively, or inspire you or discourage you. It is important to be careful about who you're surrounding yourself by. But I don't think that it's God's plan that we isolate ourselves as like, little Christians away. We have to be meeting new people and inviting them to church and introducing them to Jesus. And so it is my hope that I would be surrounded by people that think differently, believe differently. The way that I try to do that is just keeping my eyes open when I'm at the library or when I'm at the park. I think that think of Jesus. Like he was surrounded by so many different people. When you think of the disciples and the people that he had dinner with, the people that were attracted to him. And so he was warm and welcoming. He invited that in some way. So I think part of it is just being approachable and kind, so that people who are different feel don't feel shut out by you.
I just came to mind, like in our life group right now, we're doing 2 Timothy, and they talked a lot about how like Jesus spent time with a lot of unchurched, non-Christian, non-God followers, at that time. So, but he was never the influenced. He was always the influencer.
Yes.
And so like that, I really like that picture. It's like he was never like, hey, I'm hanging out with all these people and I'm being influenced by them. It was more like, I'm going to be me. And hopefully me rubs off on them. And so that perspective is one that I carry. This is just this last week's study actually, but like that, like if I'm around people who I know might not be the best for me, I need to make sure that I'm not being the one that's being influenced, but I'm influencing.
That's a really good point.
Well, you'll get there. 2 Timothy. So it'll come up in your session.
I love it. There we go.
Awesome. Well, thank you for chatting with me.
You are
It's
welcome.
been fun to like pick your brain, and we'll have to talk more books soon.
That sounds great. Thanks.
All right. See ya.